All right, and we'll call the meeting to order. Hi, everyone. I'm Duncan Haas, and I'm going to be the chair until we elect whoever's going to be the permanent chair. I'm the interim, I guess. And we'll go off the agenda that's posted up here on the board. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody to rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I think I'd like to start out tonight, since a lot of us don't know each other, with introductions around the room. If you just take a very short time to say who you are, who you represent, and by which district, I mean, and anything you would like us to know about you. And we'll start over here with District 1.
Hello, my name is Patrick Adogweme. I am elected in District 1, Position 1. I currently serve in a few volunteer boards and commissions, including being chair of the Planning Commission for the City of Vancouver. And it is my honor to be elected to this position to continue to serve my friends, my neighbors, and specifically District 1 as well here in Clark County. Thank you.
Ann Donnelly, representing District 1.
Eric LeBrant, representing District 1, Position 3, and I also serve on the Port of Vancouver Board of Commissioners.
I'm Brandon Erickson, and I represent District 2, Position 1. I also serve on the Clark County Parks Advisory Board. Very excited to be here. And I own and run an engineering business here in Clark County as well.
Kim Hamlick. Sorry, guys, I'm online. I serve District 2. Very excited to do so.
Hi, I'm Kathy Garber, and I represent District 2. And this is my first commissioner board I've ever been on, and I'm very honored to have received the votes to be part of this. Thank you.
Ben Chrisley, I represent District 3, Position 1, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Janet Landisberg, I represent District 3, Position 2. I served on Vancouver's Charter Review Commissioner, and I'm a retired administrative law judge with Social Security.
My name is John Jay. I represent District 3, Position 3, and I serve on the Planning Commission for Vancouver in addition to this role.
My name is Liz Klein. I serve in District 4, Position 1. I'm also an elected precinct committee officer and a small business owner based in Camas.
Dorothy Gasquet, representing District 4, and this will be my second time on the Charter Review Commission.
Hi, Morgan Holmgren, District 4, Position 3. Thank you.
I'm Brad Benton, District 5, Position 1. It's my honor to represent the people of District 5.
And as I stated, Duncan Haas, I'm District 5.
Peter Silliman, District 5. I got to serve on the original freeholder board 10 years ago. I also got to serve 2 years working in the county commissioner's office as I think they call it a research assistant or a policy analyst, can't remember which one. And I am a small business owner and lifelong resident of Clark County, currently living just outside of the center.
Katie Jolma, and I will be serving as your deputy prosecuting attorney for the county.
I'm Chris Cook. I am the chief civil deputy prosecuting attorney, so I'm working with Katie.
Hi, I'm Johnny McAnally. I'm the communications manager in the county manager's office, and I'll be helping you with your communication needs over the next couple of years.
And I'm Kathleen Otto, county manager, and look forward to working with you all. I'm here to answer questions and help wherever I can. Thanks.
I'm Michelle Benning. I'm the Clark County Council Administrative Assistant, and I'm your admin support. So I'm here.
All right. And Michelle is the one who actually makes things happen. So if you need something, get a hold of her. All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is the chair, vice chair, secretary nomination and appointments.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I do believe that following the past examples of the Charter Review Commission and the freeholders and normal commissions like this, I think those elections ought to be taking place after this body adopts the bylaws for the group. The reason being is those bylaws will define what those actual roles are and what their responsibilities are. And in the first freeholder group, we actually had a chair and a vice chair. In the last charter review group, they had a co-chair. So I think this body needs to define what those roles and responsibilities are by adopting bylaws before we hold those elections.
Mr. Chair, you might entertain a motion to amend the agenda if you want, if there is a notion of changing the order.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we change the agenda by moving the elections of the chair, vice chair, and secretary to after the adoption of the bylaws.
I second it as moved.
Any discussion? Yes.
I would just like to offer perhaps a friendly amendment that we just defer that we first make a decision on whether we want a chair and or a co-chair, how we want the three officers, that we do the elections, and that we then discuss in more detail the bylaws, because there's some issues with the bylaws that I would like to bring up.
Okay, Mr. Erickson.
I would suggest that we stick with the original amendment because the bylaws will discuss the roles of the officers throughout the bylaws, and that the elections for those officers should be done in full context after the bylaws are fully discussed and agreed upon.
Further discussion? Yes, sir.
It's hard for me to conceptualize the idea that we would move the election of officers beyond the bylaws. As generally speaking, most boards and commissions have the chair and vice chair format. Yes, they had to seek a co-chair in the last iteration of this body, but I find that to be the exception and not the norm. And so to say that we would move that beyond the adoption of bylaws, which is a much larger conversation, to me doesn't make sense to the order.
Ms. Garber, did you have something?
Yes. My thought is that we should, when we're looking at the bylaws, that we should review the bylaws that were from the last Charter Review Commission, because they were the last approved one, and then go from that as a starting point.
Okay, I don't know that is germane completely to the motion. The motion, if I remember it right, was to move the nominations below the adoption of the bylaws. Is that what, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that was seconded. Is there further discussion on that? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed? Or two? Two opposed. Okay, having that, the motion carries.
Duncan, if I can ask for minute purposes, if you can please state your name for the record when making a motion or a nay, so that we have the minutes correct coming back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. That'll probably be very, very helpful.
Mr. Chair, do we also need to vocalize the votes so that they are recorded and who's voted? So you keep track of every single vote, or?
So that would at least eliminate them.
If you know that, if you record the nays, then you know who voted against it.
Michelle, Liz Klein was the second on that motion.
And the nays were?
Patrick Adegweme.
Ben Chrisley.
Okay, having that motion pass, well, I'm stuck and I'll have to ask Chris's, did we just swap the two?
Just move this down to here.
Okay.
Go to the next item on the agenda.
Okay. So as long as that works for the council. All right, so up next is open public comment. Do we have anybody signed up to speak? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Donnelly?
I think Ann thought that was a sign in.
When I signed in, I thought it was important to sign in. I'm sorry.
You don't get
I
open
was
public
signing
comment.
in as having arrived for the meeting.
Should have got that. And Laurier, I'm sorry, but mispronounce your name. No. Shut Green.
Assume this is where.
Yes, there.
Okay.
Push the button.
Oh, yes, I'm used to this. Good evening. My name's Chuck Green. I was elected to represent then District 2, and I was co-chair of the last Charter Review Commission in 2021. I just want to offer my congratulations for making it this far and my thanks for putting yourselves out there. This is, I've been called a government wonk by a previous reporter, the Columbian, so I guess this is why this is pretty cool to me, is to be part of this. It's actually historic. I also wanted to offer up, being a government walk and having gone through 34 meetings of the commission and numerous meetings of committees, I actually kept my notes. So if there's any support I can offer or any, what did you do then or what did you not do then, I'd be happy to offer up that to this commission. Because I think it's important to know what we did, what we didn't do, maybe what we put on the table for the next commission, which would be you. I just also want to offer up, you are on a par with the county council. And so that means you're not subservient to them. They're not subservient to you. You're different commissions, but you're still the same elected bodies, just on an equal level. The other thing I would ask is that offer up as a lesson learned, adopt a work plan early on because we didn't at first, but we finally did. Is when we finally did that, we actually started cooking with gas. And then finally do your research. And I encourage you to do your research. And don't feel afraid to do it. It's really good and it's really helpful when you do consider some amendments. So I'd like in closing, like to offer up the immortal sage words of Leslie Nielsen. Good luck. We're all counting on you. Thank you.
Good job, Chuck.
Bruce Barnes.
Good evening, Chair and county people here. Again, I'd like to echo what Chuck said. This is probably a pretty thankless job, but I'm concerned about the guardrails in my community. As of last year, we've got a couple of lawsuits going. Our tax dollars are being, in my opinion, irresponsibly spent. That's led to a deficit, and I'm hoping that you people here are going to help put the guardrails on it. And I'm glad there's a diverse group here, first and foremost. I've gone to a lot of committees and a lot of meetings where it's all politicians sitting here, and I don't see one. Oh, I guess I do. I see one. But I mean, I'm just stating facts, but I think it's important to have a public voice, right? That's the most important thing. I go to the TriMet board meeting over in Portland. It's all people that are appointed by the governor, but it's the public. I go to our CTRAN meeting and it's all politicians, right? And we know how politicians can be easily swayed by money. We've seen it in lots of communities, including ours. And I think it's important that we look at this objectively. And I think we also need to look at, if we're going to put boundaries on things, we got to look at the politicians that are elected, right? And you people are the guardrails for those folks that are elected in our community. And one of those guardrails is you're elected by your constituency and you should be able to vote the way you want. on anything that, or any board that you're on. You shouldn't have to be forced to vote because the chair tells you how to vote. I think that's a dictatorship, and I think it's wrong. And that's why I'm here, because I'm a very concerned citizen. I'm also a lifetime resident of Clark County of 60 years. And I've seen politics go up and down and up and down, and bad politics and good politics. But we need to fix some things. And one of the things we need to fix is our prosecutor's office. It's broken horribly. We're not prosecuting any criminals, and the crime in this community is through the roof. But I thank you for your time and your efforts. Thank you.
Henry Marion?
Hello, I'm Henry Marion. I was a candidate for Charter Review Commission District 3, Position 3. I just want to say, echo what Chuck said. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you for agreeing to serve. Some of you went to some great personal expense to be here. This is where I have to break the news to you that this is an unpaid position. Yeah. For some of the small c conservatives in the room, one thing that's important to understand is that the state of Washington requires that there be a charter review commission. It can be elected or appointed, and it can meet every 5 or 10 years. They don't require that it actually do anything. So that option is on the table for each and every one of you right now to just gavel this thing to a close. You don't have to put anything on the ballot. There's no requirement that you do so. The other thing I would like to mention, there were a number of you in this room who received and published the endorsement of the Clark County Sheriff. Now, one of the items in your billet, in your remit, is the review of the charter and which county executive positions are appointed or elected. I think anyone who published that sheriff's endorsement may need to consider recusing themselves from any motions relating to the sheriff's office. There are a number of great resources available from MRSC, National League of Cities, Washington Association of Counties. There's lots of literature. I'm happy to link you to any of those documents if you'd like, but there is a very clear delineation between now our charter uses the term executive, but between the administrative and the legislative. Many of you were openly campaigning on specific fiscal issues and other policy items that will not survive a court challenge. Thank you.
That's all I have signed up in the room. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment? We do have someone online. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute yourself. Please do so and state your name for the record and go ahead with your comments.
Good evening, Kimberly Goheen Elbin. I am a life citizen of Clark County, Washington, USA. You know, I just started getting more involved, and unfortunately, I should have been involved all my life. But this last 5 years of this beginning of the pandemic. So this is my first Charter Review Commission meeting. And so I'll be learning very much, I'm sure, this year. We, the people, have great hopes in this commission as we Clark County citizens become more aware of what our government, our governor is planning for the great state of Washington, which used to be the great state of Washington, right? I don't think so anymore, and that's too sad. I've lived here all my life. I believe that the governor is actually portraying like a king, and Washington State has also proclaimed to be in a sanctuary status, of which I object also. And I believe that this governor also disregards who the people voted for as president of the United States, Donald John Trump, and his attempt to get our government back to the people and to follow the meaning of the Constitution. So that's what we hope that you commissioners will do, follow the Constitution, abide by our president that more Americans voted for. And I'd like you to also know on the record. I think you already know it, but that Vancouver, where I was born, is a sanctuary status city. And I think that's of great alarm. They have some things going. They, of course, want to try to clean up by putting bicycles and walking and stuff. I get all that. The fact is, the earth is in trouble. The earth is polluted to death. And there's a lot of things that you folks can watch. There's a show on PBS about extinction. It's called Extinction, the Truth. We just have a lot of pollution going on that I want this commission to address, forthright, be transparent, so that we can keep our farmlands, our timberlands, and get clean water back here to Clark County. We can only handle Clark County, one county at a time, right? So we want to make Washington State great again, protect our people, let the people know that we're polluted and what things we can do to stop pollution, stop killing our bugs, our frogs, our bees. Our bees are in big trouble. 4 years ago, I spoke on Lars Larson and said I don't have any bees or bugs in my garden anymore. And I said, if you don't believe that, look on your windshield. How many people see bugs on their windshields anymore? They're not.
That concludes public comment.
All right, moving on to the agenda. OPMA public records training. Is somebody putting that on for us, or how's that? Oh, perfect. I'll turn it over to the expert then.
I hope so. Thank you. And we have a slide deck up here. I know you have all taken the state's. Okay, sorry. I know you've all taken the state's OPMA training and other open government training. I have a few tweaks to the training, which are in some ways more specific to the Charter Review Commission. This is the third time I've advised the group, by the way. I did the freeholders and the last Charter Review Commission. So I've seen a couple of these questions come up, and I'd like to equip you with some ways to think about them before they arrive. So the Open Public Meetings Act, next slide please, is RCW 4230. It's been around for more than 50 years. The Open Public Records Act is 4256, and it has been around for about 50 years. Next slide, please. On this third slide, you should delete from, it should be deleted from the slide and from your minds, the second line up there. But there are some related requirements to OPMA that are outside Chapter 4230. For example, there are specific notice requirements for Charter Review Commission meetings found in the county charter. So look at section 9.1. It will tell you that 14 days public notice is required for a meeting. Next slide, please. So the important thing to start out with is that the OPMA governs the actions of the Charter Review Commission. And then the next lines have to do with how we get there. So first of all, Clark County is a public agency, as that term is defined in state statute. Then the CRC is a sub-agency, and my apologies, I get tired of saying the same words over and over again, so I use acronyms. CRC, that's you. You're a sub-agency of Clark County, and you are created pursuant to the charter, which calls for a review commission every 5 years. So therefore, if you look at RCW 4230-020-1C, you'll see that the CRC is itself a public agency. Next slide, please. In addition, the CRC is a governing body under OPMA. So a difficult question that arose last time was, well, what about committees? You don't all have to get together to write a proposal for an amendment to the charter, but what if there is going to be a committee that will write a proposal? So the questions here, again, under the statute, RCW 4230-0202, is the committee acting on behalf of the CRC to create an amend or proposed amendment? And then does the committee take any testimony or public comment? And public means anybody but you and staff. So if either of those questions can be answered by yes, then a committee is a governing body. And it was kind of annoying to some folks last time. It was difficult. And remember, it was also during COVID. But the committees operated under the OPMA in 2020. All right, next slide, please. So an important word to understand under OPMA is action. An action, according to the statute, means the transaction of the official business of a public agency by a governing body, including but not limited to receipt of public testimony, deliberations, discussions, considerations, reviews, evaluations, and final actions. That's a lot. So final action means voting yes or no on a proposal. The other things I think can be relatively easily defined by their common meanings. If you're talking about the business of the CRC, you're probably engaged in a discussion. You might also be deliberating. Well, I don't want to vote for that. You might be considering it. I want to think about it because da 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 da. So pretty much anything that is done by the group, remember the public agency, that's you, by a governing body, also you, any of these things are actions under the Open Public Meetings Act. Okay, now we get to my very favorite definition, my very favorite line in the entire statute. What is a meeting? Meeting means meetings. Great. At which action is taken. That's actually words from the statute. So what then is a meeting? First of all, a quorum must be present for a meeting, whether it's a quorum of the whole group or a quorum of the committee or whatever. Quorum will, I assume, be defined in the bylaws that you adopt. If it isn't, in general, it is understood as more than half of the members. So you have to have a quorum or you don't have a meeting of the group. We don't do proxies. Elected positions are positions that are filled by the candidate that received enough votes to win. And they cannot be filled by the candidate's best friend or campaign manager, or legal advisor, or cousin, or whoever. So you are the people that must be present either physically or virtually to make a quorum. Do you all have to be physically present at one time for there to be a meeting? The answer to that is no. There is a concept called a serial meeting. And a serial meeting basically consists of a quorum of the group that is discussing, deliberating, evaluating, one of those action things serially, one after another. So Commissioner A emails Commissioner B about a particular thing. Commissioner B emails Commissioner C about that same thing. Commissioner B also emails Commissioner D. And they know that this is going on, but they believe that because they're all not together, that's not a meeting. So I would like to tell you that that would be a very risky thing to do. We don't have a whole lot of case law that says, whoa, those folks did a serial meeting. But we do have a case that went to the Court of Appeals from the Battleground School District, where the court ruled that there was adequate evidence of discussion and by a serial group to show that there might have been intent to take action as a group. So don't do it. There, that's, as your lawyer, I would suggest that you do not engage in serial meetings. Next slide, please. So having gotten through a bunch of definitions, we now get to the punchline. This is the overarching requirement of OPMA. And there is a statement in the very first section of Chapter 4230 that very clearly states what the purpose of the law is. Meetings are to be open and public. There you go. All meetings of the governing body of a public agency, again, that's you in two different ways, shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the governing body of a public agency, except as otherwise permitted in OPMA. So that's the general idea. Next slide, please. So there are no secret ballots allowed. If you're voting, you need to vote out loud and visibly, so, or by raising hands that can be seen by everybody in the group. There is no voting in executive session, ever, ever, ever. That must be done in the open public meeting. So, next slide, please. In addition, OPMA encourages public agencies, again, that's you, to provide for virtual attendance and participation in meetings of governing bodies. This came in, not surprisingly, after COVID, when all of a sudden we all had to put our meetings online and make them hybrid. And, you know, one of you is attending this meeting tonight virtually. That can be done. Likewise, the public can attend your meetings virtually. And that's why y'all have microphones. I mean, I can yell loud enough for anybody in this room to hear, but the public needs to hear also. And the meeting is also televised and will be available. There will be a audio, well, there'll be a video of it available that people can look at to see what went on if they missed it. So just because somebody is online, it does not mean that their attendance is lesser. They're here, they're part of the meeting. If they are signed in and logged in. Okay, more OPMA provisions. Next slide, please. Oh, good job. No conditions for attendance. Clark County used to ask people to say their address when people testified in front of the county council. Can't do that. There are some exceptions. One is that it is not acceptable to interrupt or disrupt a meeting. And there are steps that can be taken under OPMA if that occurs. Hopefully it won't. And I and Kathleen's office and Michelle will work with the chair and make those things happen if that becomes a problem. Secondly, there's no open carry at meetings in the PSC, even if you have a permit. You can concealed carry, you can't open carry. And that's posted in the PSC, and this is the statute that provides for that. Next slide, please. So that the public have an idea of what will be on the agenda of a meeting, so they know whether they want to come and talk about it or participate online. They know whether to take a look at the video after the meeting has occurred. They must get due notice of the meeting. Public notice of county meetings gets published in the Columbian, and is it in the Reflector also?
I don't do.
No. Okay, so it is in the Columbian. It's also posted on the county webpage. So you can see when and where the meetings are and what the agenda is, so that you have an idea of what topics will be before the group. So our charter requires 14 days public notice of meetings, and it takes, there is a deadline for the Columbian as to when they will accept our notice to get it published on time. So we don't wait until the last second, hopefully, to figure out the agenda. In any event, the agenda must be posted 24 hours in advance of the start time of the meeting. And that's for regular meetings. And hopefully you all will make some decisions about when regular meetings will occur. Special meetings are also a possibility, but those require special notice. Like, we have to notify all the TV stations, and we have to post something on paper at the front door and things of that nature. In any event, the agenda has to be posted 24 hours in advance. Next slide, please. An executive session is a session that is closed to the public. It is not broadcast to the public. It's not online to the public. And executive sessions are permitted with notice on the agenda, but only for reasons specified in the statute. It can't be because, well, we don't want to talk about this in front of everybody because some people are really upset about it, or some people will become disruptive or whatever. Look at 4230-110. That's where you get all your reasons. And if you've ever looked at the agenda of a county council meeting, council time in particular that occurs on Wednesday afternoon, you'll see that executive session is planned for 10 minutes to talk about pending litigation pursuant to 4230-110, one little I, and there will be after action. That's the kind of thing it says. So if you are thinking that there needs to be an executive session, that needs to go to staff before the agenda gets posted. And staff needs to know what the reason is for the executive session, how long you think it'll take, and whether there will be after action. And after an executive sessions are held within the meeting. So you can't say, well, we're going to have executive session now and then the meeting will be adjourned. You have to come back into session of the open public meeting. That's why it's important to say how long it will be so people know. Most of the executive sessions that you might engage in would probably not have after action, but I'm not sure. Okay, thank you. Next one. That's it on OPMA. Does anybody have questions on OPMA?
Yes.
Mr. Silliman.
All right, let me get to my note here. So you talked about a meeting being one where there's a quorum of members and also address serial meetings, but how are we going to operate with committees that are smaller than a quorum or?
There will be a quorum of each committee.
Okay, so each committee will have a constituted quorum, so the decisions made there constitute. No meeting too.
If you have a quorum of 5 people, if you have a committee, I'm sorry, of 5 people, it can't do committee work with only 2 people there. In general, you need to have one more than half or any more than half.
Okay, and how does that apply to small groups? Say if I partnered up with Duncan and said, hey, Duncan, I got this issue. Can you help me gather the information on it? At what time might that group that are gathering information to present to the group, what is there a point where we might be taking action that
so
big to OPMA? Can you draw a line there where we
2 of you, if you're not talking together as a committee of 3, okay, let's say you're talking just as part of the overall group, 2 of you can talk about anything, but then just don't, well, Duncan and I were talking about this. What do you think about it? And pass it on, because that would indicate, as the courts call it, an intent to discuss, deliberate, and take action. But 2 of you is fine. And as I think of it, the first charter written by the freeholders, one of the reasons for having a 5-person council was so that 2 of the counselors could talk without violating the OPMA. Back when there were only 3 commissioners, if you said boo to another commissioner and boo was on the agenda, you just violated OPMA. So you and Duncan talking is fine.
And to clarify, maybe it's okay for us to gather information, but we're not colluding and saying, Duncan, you vote for me on this. Is that's starting a serial meeting? So I can't say, hey, Duncan, are you going to vote with me on this?
Just don't say it to anybody else.
Yeah. But I can say, hey, Duncan, can you help me gather information for this? Because we're going to present that to the group, right?
Yes, but the information gathering shouldn't be with a quorum of commissioners.
Right. That's why I'm just saying, if it's me and Duncan and we're saying, hey, gather the information on this, you gather it from these guys, that guy, I do it from that guy, and then we present it here, we're not conducting an OPMA meeting.
As long as this guy, that guy, and this other guy are not members of the commission.
Of a
testimony, which
Right,
is the gathering of and communication of information.
Okay.
That's an action. That's an
Well, I was
OPMA
thinking other
action.
things other than getting public testimony from, I was thinking just gathering written information, doing research like that, but I just want to be clear where the line is to make sure that I'm compliant.
I hope I'm helping. And if you have a specific question at any time, I have a Clark County email that has the same format as yours. I'm christine.cook@clark.wa.gov.
Okay.
And
I'll move on. So the other thing you brought up was executive sessions. Were there any executive sessions in the last Charter Review Commission, or is
I believe there were a couple.
really?
Yeah, and I have repressed what they were about.
Okay, so the possibility.
I can answer that question. I think mostly it was just when we were appointing people to fill seats.
That makes sense.
Okay, I was just trying to imagine what, since it is a
Yeah.
limited scope, what we would do.
And that is a permissible reason for an executive session to discuss the qualifications of an applicant.
Okay, back to the committees, since they are open public meetings, do they occur like before the regular meetings last time, or how did that work?
That was totally organized by the committees themselves. Remember, this was COVID and people had limitations as to when and where they could meet.
Okay, and they all would have been recorded online then?
Yes.
So I had a couple of things I wanted to touch on. One is for our requirements. If we want to hold a meeting, whether it's as a commission or as a committee, my understanding is that will filter through county staff that will say, we want to have a meeting in a few weeks.
Yes.
Can you, and they'll handle the noticing and whatnot.
Totally. County staff does the notice. Just get it to them on time.
Right.
That's all.
When we're a little bit green, my hope would be that county staff would also say, hey, that's not far enough out for us to get that.
Oh,
for us to meet that threshold.
they will.
So second item I was going to ask about is if you have the OPMA RCW handy, if you'd be willing to share the second paragraph of section 10.
110? Oh, it's
no,
much longer than a paragraph, but I will get that
Of section,
sent to you.
section 10.
Section 110 that
No,
has,
section 10, the first
oh,
because I think it captures the spirit of OPMA really well.
I used to have it on my notes and I think it went goodbye. But yeah, section 10 is the purpose, the reason, the intention, the goal of OPMA.
If I may, hopefully before my battery goes dead. It says the people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed and informing the people's public servants of their views so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. For these reasons, even when not required by law, public agencies are encouraged to incorporate and accept public comment during their decision-making process. I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it captures really nicely the spirit of and intent of the transparency of the whole rest of that. If when in doubt, we want to make sure that we're being transparent, whether it's as a commission or as a committee or whatever, that we're sharing early and often. And last but not least, wanted to throw out there OPMA, because it's anytime we're discussing business, also applies to emails. So please, as a group, avoid that reply all button. If there's something that needs to be shared, there's better ways to do it. You can violate OPMA with 2 clicks when you hit send.
If I had my way, no county staff person or official could use a device that had a reply all capability. Just don't do it. Those things are uncontrollable and they spread far and wide. So reply to the person who sent you something.
Chris, can I just clarify something real quick? Because I'm new to this and slow sometimes. If we put together a subcommittee to study snacks at break time for us, and they want to, there's five of them, and they want to have a meeting outside of our regular charter meeting, then they would notify Michelle that the subcommittee is going to have a meeting and she would make public notice. Is that how that works?
If they're only talking about snacks, I don't believe their discussion would be about the business
Okay, I
of
use
the
snacks
commission.
just like, because I didn't want to get onto a topic. If it's rewriting our bylaws,
Yeah,
would,
yes, you notify Michelle
okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
and that's it. That's how it's done.
I did just want to jump in to ask here. I know that in some municipal boards and commissions in Washington, they have a practice of, BCCing a lot of the elected emails. And so really the only risk would be when you get a calendar invite, right? Like there's a reply all button there. But if everyone is BCC, that helps us to avoid having to actually, or being able to even reply all, right? So we're engineering out the problem. Is that something that county staff is able to do when distributing materials to us via email, or?
County staff will very likely send all of you the same materials at the same time. If it's just materials, you don't need to respond to that. And if it is something else that you really want to respond to, well, regardless, don't hit reply all.
Right, I get that part. I think my comment was more so that there are ways in which to communicate, which would help to remove some of that risk.
You can communicate with another person. You can communicate with a number of folks who are fewer than a quorum, as long as they don't pass it on. Yes.
Can you speak to the requirements for notifying about the cancellation of a meeting? If we were to, for example, decide that we want to meet weekly, but then we find that a particular week we do not need to meet, what are the requirements for noticing about the cancellation of a meeting?
Well, hopefully you would have figured that out more than a day or two in advance. Because agendas get posted 24 hours in advance, I would expect that you would get that information to Michelle at least on time to post the cancellation 24 hours in advance. But also, just be considerate of the group members and of the public, and do it as quickly as you can. Figure it out. The sooner, the better. But I don't think there's a particular, criterion for notifying people that something isn't happening. Yes.
It's maybe out of scope for the purpose of our conversation today, but in regards of publishing our meetings with the local press, would we be able to expand the amount of publications from beyond just the Columbian?
Well, it's not free. Here's the issue. And the county has a limited budget. So
Press releases aren't free? Or how is it communicated?
it's not a press release. It's an advertisement.
Okay.
And the county is charged for, I don't know whether it's every line or every word or what, but it is an expense and it is budgeted by the county every year. So I am not the person to ask whether there is money in the pot to go further, but you might consider that the CRC itself has a limited budget, which has been adopted, and you might want to spend it on something else.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I move on to the Public Records Act? Oh, one more thing on OPMA. There is a piece on the MRSC website about the Public Records Act, about serial meetings and so forth and so on. I don't agree with that posting. It's, you don't have to worry about it because this San Juan County case didn't find that there had been a serial meeting that was violative of OPMA. Well, that was the end of the case. There was no OPMA violation, but the reasoning was because there wasn't evidence in that particular situation of an intent to meet and discuss or deliberate. So it doesn't mean it can't ever happen. It just didn't then. All right, Public Records Act. So a public record is any writing that contains information relating to the conduct of government or the performance of any governmental or proprietary function that is prepared, owned, used, or retained by any state or local agency. Local agency includes a county or any office, department, division, bureau, board, or commission thereof. So y'all are a local agency for purposes of the Public Record Act. And what that means is when you have a writing, it's and it's about your business, it's a public record. What is a writing? Ooh, this one is even better. It's really long. Next slide, please. There we go. Handwriting, typewriting, printing, photostatting, photographing, every other means of recording any form of communication or representation, including but not limited to letters, words, pictures, sounds, or symbols, combination thereof, etc., etc., etc. If it is something that memorializes in any way some communication of the public agency about the public's business, or that was given to the public agency about the public business, it's a public record. And that is what you need to know about what is covered by it. So public records, next slide, please, must be retained, maintained, protected, and made available to the public upon request, except in certain limited cases. The Public Records Act includes lots of process requirements for public agencies that get public records requests. How much can be charged for them? How many days do you get to send an answer to the requester who asked for any and all emails from the past 20 years? We've gotten those requests. Last but not least on this, anyone may request public records for any reason at all. It doesn't have to be a good reason, a legitimate reason, a sensible reason. They don't even have to say a reason. They just have to say, we want your public records, and then identify them. So all the emails to and from the chair of the Charter Review Commission and county staff about a proposed amendment, for example. So it's extremely broad, it's extremely inclusive in what it covers. There are a couple exceptions. Very personal information, like they don't get your social security number, they don't get your driver's license number, they don't get pictures of your kids. And commercial use is also an exception. You're not supposed to make a public records request so that you can construct a great mailing list. But other than that, those things, it's pretty broad and inclusive. And next slide, please. So what if you say, but that's personal? That has my really own internal thoughts on it. That would violate my privacy. And the answer is, then you shouldn't have sent it to a government agency. A person's privacy rights are violated by the disclosure of information under the Public Records Act only if the disclosure about the person, number one, would be highly offensive, not just irritating or offensive, but highly offensive to a reasonable person. And two is not, and notice that it's and number two, is not of legitimate concern to the public. So what if you think that the public agency is going to disclose something that would violate your privacy rights? You can go to court and seek an injunction to prevent the disclosure. The county will not be your legal representative in that. The county will not support. The county will abide by the court's decision, certainly. But if you don't like a public records request that involves you, it's up to you to fight it. What do you need to do as commissioners to abide by the Public Records Act? Keep your records and keep them organized and available on your device. Separate them from your personal records. You don't want to have to go through all your emails over a 2-year period to find the ones that are related to Charter Review Commission business. If the county receives a request for what might be your records, you will be asked to sign an affidavit that you have searched your records and provided any that are responsive, or that there are none that are responsive. So that's the punchline of the Public Records Act. Be careful with your stuff, separate it, organize it so that you can pull it up if you need to. And that's why you all have county email addresses. Do your charter review emailing on your county address. Okay, that is the end. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Quick question. If you receive an email from a private citizen who wanted to give you suggestions regarding charter review, is that also considered a public record since it came from a private
Did you
citizen?
read it? Yeah, I'd say it is.
Okay.
If you received it and didn't do anything at all with it, like you didn't open it, it might not be a public record, but I wouldn't want to make that argument in court.
Okay. And the other thing is, and this was for the OPMA thing, is couldn't we do a press release in addition to like a special, in addition to noticing, John was talking about, to let other newspapers know, because press releases are free?
I'll let Johnny answer that.
The answer to that is yeah. Just a quick clarification. When you meet and you need to do the legal notification, the legal ad, which yes, we pay for, that goes to Michelle. If you want a news release on it, which I don't recommend doing for every meeting. However, I did one prior to this meeting and next week's meeting. And I'll do another one once you decide on your chairs and all that. And your regular meeting schedule, we'll get that out so folks know in a news release. That goes through me. And then also, if you do want to spend part of your budget on an actual paid print ad, whether it's the Columbian and or Reflector or whatever, that also goes through our office. So those are completely different than the legal notice, which goes through Michelle. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
If I can risk chiming in again, you might get emails from folks in the community who know you through, person to person, a job that you've had together, former coworker, whatever. And they might have you saved in their phone with your personal email address, your work email address. When someone emails you about charter review business, that's still a public record because you're discussing business. But your county email is your friend. It's not a bad idea when you get those, if you get those, hopefully not too many, that you can forward it to your county address. And you can also, that's also a good time to remind folks, hey, this is my county address for official stuff. But by forwarding it to your county address, then it's archived. When you have a public records request, it makes it a lot easier to go back and find those.
Absolutely agree.
All right. Any more discussion on that topic?
Thank you for your attention and patience.
All right. We're moving on to the ethics review. And
thank you. I'll be presenting on that. Again, Katie Jolma, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. And also to be clear, we're in the civil division here at the county, not criminal. So I'm going to start. Can we go to next slide, please? Thank you. So we'll start with reviewing the state law under Title 42. Seeing that you are duly elected by the public, you are public officials. And under 42-23-020, no public officer shall be beneficially interested directly or indirectly in any contract, I'm emphasizing these for a reason, or accept directly or indirectly any compensation, gratuity, or reward. We'll get more into examples of these, but that's sort of the baseline of what the state statute requires. However, it is important to note that your local charter under 42-23-050 actually controls. So the specifics under the charter here in Clark County would be the controlling document first. And if it's not clear, then you would go to state law. Okay. And under 0.070, you cannot use your position to secure special privileges or exemptions for yourself. You cannot give or receive any compensation, gift, reward, or gratuity related to your office. So no special favors to your friends and family or any constituents. Using your position here at the county. You cannot accept employment or engage in business that would induce or disclose confidential information acquired through your position. So, for example, there's several of you that also hold other public positions or public employment. You cannot use information that you gain from this to take back to that, or from that over to this. So you cannot share confidential information. Now, most of what you will be discussing will be open and in the public, as Chris just discussed. But something that would be confidential would be what you discuss in your executive meetings. So that would not be something that you can share outside of those meetings. And then, so that's the duty not to disclose the confidential information, also for personal benefit. The common example is that in your capacity as an official, you find out ahead of schedule that there's going to be a public bid on a contract going out, and you jump the gun and tell your business buddies or the business you own personally to get it in first. You can't do that. So and also to remind you that under 4241.010, the local whistleblower protections apply. And so county employees are encouraged to report improper government actions by public officials. So you are subject to that, and you are forbidden from engaging in any retaliatory behavior if a county employee were to report you for improper actions. So you cannot, there's a retaliatory behavior there's a lot of examples and a lot of ways that you could engage in that. So the best course of action is don't do anything that seems like it's retaliatory if someone thinks that you have done something improper in your official capacity. Moving to the county code, in 2021, in November, the voters approved the formation of the ethics code, which also created the ethics review committee. And that is a quasi judicial body of 3 appointed persons to look into and also decide outcomes that are reported to them. There is an internal process for that that also it can involve HR as well. But they are responsible for hearing, investigating, and ruling on complaints of violations of the ethics code, which is found under 2.0701 Clark County Code. Under 2.07010 Code of Ethical Conduct, that adheres to the state law and Clark County Human Resources policies found under 13.1. So we have state law, charter, and we have the human resources policies that you're all subject to under ethics. So different examples can be found in different places, but the charter rules, that's your first point. State law, and then you also have your human resources policies. So in general, the policies promote honesty, openness, and accountability in all public matters involving county government. And you don't get much broader than that. If it is involving county government, whether it's before you or before the council, but it's all county matters, then the ethics rules apply. Clark County Human Resources Policy. Oh, I'm sorry. Next, I'm not saying next slide. Okay, I figured you had it. I wasn't looking up there. 13.1. So the scope. It applies to all county employees, volunteers, those representing the county, which are you. And you are also covered under the elected officials, appointed committee. So as an elected official and you serve on a subcommittee, ethics apply, and advisory board members. And these policies are intended to amplify and clarify and expand on the state law. there's a 4-factor test that is used to examine and investigate an ethics violation or alleged violation. And it is whether the employee, or in this case, the public official, was benefited personally. This can include a friend or relative benefiting by the actions of the employee or the official. So your household members, your best friend, your partner at work. These are all examples of how this would apply. A decision or action was or might be influenced by personal interest, and the consideration was solicited by the employee or public official. Now, it's one thing if someone comes up and proposes to you, hey, I heard about something, that still might fall under an ethics violation, but it's as the factored test comes into play, it's much more egregious if you're the one, sharing that confidential information, or you're the one asking for the Blazers tickets from someone. You're the one seeking these out is much more detrimental in the view of a review of that. Clark County Human Resources Policy, duty to disclose. So you all have a duty to disclose if you are presented with what you think could be an ethical violation. You should report that to another elected official or a department head, maybe pertaining to the topic of what is in violation, the ethics that are in violation. But you could report to the chair of this committee. You can report to a council member. You could report to the civil prosecuting office as well. There are several avenues for you to do that. The important thing is that you disclose. Any situation involving even an apparent or potential conflict, or the appearance of a conflict, an actual conflict between personnel or official responsibilities, you have a duty to disclose. Once disclosed, those go to the prosecuting attorney's office and HR to determine if a conflict exists and also possible remedies for it. You also have, you can voluntarily recuse. It has been my advice and it is my experience that it is always safer to disclose and potentially recuse yourself from a decision than to guess, not say anything, and take a vote or action on it. So, if there's any question to that, then please speak up about it. Again, to disclose any potential areas where you could have an ethical conflict. There are exceptions and de minimis rules or situations. This is where it is not unethical to engage in these behaviors. Lunch or coffee bought by a friend whom the official has had an existing relationship with. Again, a coffee is something that is seen as de minimis. Now you go on vacation and they pay for a cruise, that's going to be very different. But having coffee with an existing friend that you have an existing relationship with is not going to rise to an ethical violation. Participating in countywide programs available to everyone. So, for example, if there are countywide discounts that are available to everyone here, I can't even think of any that we have. that we have discounts for, or memberships like that, or then it wouldn't apply because everybody is offered it. And then unsolicited items of insignificant value. This is where, pens are handed out, free notepads are given to everybody. They're left on a lunchroom table, or, snacks are left out somewhere. You participating and consuming those things are not ethical violations. But when it rises above trinkets or things that are offered as to everyone or left out for those who would like some, that is where it has to kind of stay below that line of small items that have no monetary value or would not be considered to have monetary value. So these are the actual examples that are listed in 13.1 under the Human Resources policy. I've only shortened them to fit within the slide. But to go through, so these are examples of unethical or borderline. Again, any of these situations you should disclose, duty to disclose, and you would have a potentiality to recuse yourself if there was a vote taken related to. An official attempts to intervene or influence the outcome of a county decision regarding a friend or relative. So that is in your capacity either here on the charter or using your official business and your title to influence council decisions. You cannot do that. A buyer accepts sports tickets from a potential vendor or a public official accepting expensive tickets. That's unethical. Building inspector looks the other way on a code violation in the home of a county official. Accepting a donation from an outside contractor for a county-sponsored event, such as a golf tournament. So if someone, and this does happen sometimes innocently, someone may contact you and say, we would like, as a public official, we'd like you to play in our charity golf tournament and we'll cover your admission fee. You can't do that. Okay, you have to pay your own way. You can participate, but you have to pay the same fee everyone else would pay to participate in the event. An official or supervisor grants an early salary increase to the employee because they are close friends. Accepting a stipend for a speaking engagement. This also may be a situation that could apply to you. You may be asked to speak and probably likely will be asked to speak in public using your official capacity as the Charter Review Commissioner. However, you cannot accept money to do so. A supervisor strongly encourages staff to donate to a charitable organization he or she supports. That includes your campaigns or future campaigns. You cannot do that. You cannot solicit employees here to support your campaign or others' campaigns or other charitable events. Using county bulletin boards or mail systems to advertise a private business. That's whether it's your private, many said they were small business owners here. You cannot use county resources or public postings to advertise for your businesses or a relative or friends either. Using contacts influence to obtain a vehicle registration without having to wait in line. This is sort of using that title to get those benefits or special privileges that we talked about under the RCW, whether it's at the DMV or to get out of a parking ticket. You cannot do that. Work assignments in a unit are based on who the supervisor likes the most. That would be one of those borderline behaviors that probably shouldn't partake in that. And employee sends personal correspondence on county or department letterhead or uses an envelope with a county department or logo, giving the impression of county authority. So you may be asked at one point in this process, if you come up with initiatives for the public to vote on, you likely will be asked what your opinion is on that. And you can give that opinion in a public forum or to a news outlet. But what you shouldn't do is put it on county letterhead or charter, make it seem like it's the opinion of the entire charter to representing your own personal opinion. Now you can present facts according to the charter that are the factual situations, and you can explain things factually. The charter did this, but if there is a vote pending on that or an actionable item, you cannot represent that the county also supports that opinion or that the entire charter does so. It has to be your personal opinion given. Any questions on that or any of this?
All right, seeing no questions, I think we'll move on. Thank you.
That's good. That's a good sign, everybody.
And if you have any questions about whether something requires you to recuse yourself or disclose, as an advisor to a number of county boards and commissioners, I have been asked that question by many officials over the years. Feel free to ask. It's, most of the time, no, you don't need to recuse yourself. Sometimes we'll say, you don't need to recuse yourself, but it's a good idea to disclose it so that everybody knows you're not hiding something. And when you disclose, say, but I think I can vote fairly on this, if that's what you think, at the public meeting, and that will cover your obligations. If a majority of the commission thinks you should recuse yourself, then presumably they will say so, and that's another issue. Okay, I'm going to go through some things in Robert's Rules of Order and how meetings are held. I am not using that stuff, sorry, but it's good to read, though there is one, I take issue with one item on it. So Robert's Rules of Order are generally the guide for holding the meetings, but the most important thing about holding meetings is that the chair presides. And the chair can make decisions that are reasonable and appropriate. When there is a vote, presumably you're going to do, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you have an agenda for every meeting. The first thing that should happen is roll call, because you can't have a meeting without a quorum. So you make a record that a quorum is present. Then if anybody wants to amend the agenda, that's the time to make a motion to amend the agenda. And that is done by motion, must be seconded, and it requires a vote of the majority. The commission, as a group, then will conduct its business according to the agenda, just going down, boom, 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 and presided over by the chair. Motion must be seconded before further discussion of that matter. And a motion can be amended as occurred this evening. So what I saw in the last Charter Review Commission was a lot of wordsmithing occurred at meetings when people were proposing possible charter amendments. Again, that's done by amendment. Somebody will say, I move we adopt this so-and-so proposal to amend the charter. And somebody else will say, well, somebody else seconds it. And then somebody says, I would like to amend that motion. So the amendment should be, the motion to amend should be seconded. But the first thing that happens after that, those things occur, is that the chair will ask whether the original movement accepts the amendment. And if it's accepted as a friendly amendment, and whoever seconded the motion to begin with is okay with it, then the group as a whole does not vote on the amendment. So a motion then, either original or as amended, is approved by a vote of a majority of a quorum, unless a greater vote is required. I'm not sure whether there are any greater votes required in this group. I don't think there are, but that will be in the bylaws. Without the necessary vote, the motion is defeated, and that is the outcome of the vote is announced by the chair after the vote. So what if you don't like how you voted and you want to change your vote? There are rules for doing that. They largely depend on whether you decide you goofed at the meeting or at a later time. If that situation comes up, we will help you with the necessities. And then at the end of the meeting, you adjourn. And typical practice is you get to the end of the meeting, everybody is exhausted and wants to go home. And the chair says, without objection, we will adjourn. If anybody objects, say so then, but it mostly doesn't happen. Now, my real problem with the papers or the documents that you were given about Robert's rules is it says, well, if you all want to talk about something away from the public, you can meet as a committee of the whole. Somebody says, Mr. Chair, I move we meet as a committee of the whole. I am here to say that we do not do that. That is not allowed by Washington law. That's not in the OPMA. We have executive sessions, and there's a way to go about having an executive session, but don't even think about the committee of a whole. It doesn't exist and will never exist. And that's all I've got on Robert's rules. Again, if a crisis comes up or a question, we can deal with it. Questions? Great.
Thank you, ladies, very much. Appreciate both those. We'll move on to the communications protocols. Johnny.
Thank you. Again, my name is Johnny McAnally. I'm the communications manager. And just want to introduce you to a few of our, a little closer, she says. Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. I just want to let you know who our staff are and kind of what we can do for you. This is the list that, thank you, Michelle, that you see up there. It's just kind of a partial list of everything we do, but I just mostly included things that I thought would be useful to this group and that we've done in the past for the previous group. First of all, we're kind of a small but mighty staff. We have, in addition to me, Melissa Morley, who's our graphic designer, very talented person we hired to the county last year. And Marilee McCall, who is our neighborhood coordinator. She is the conduit. I know I see head nodding. A lot of you already probably know her. She's kind of the conduit between our 17 active neighborhood associations and the county. And I know last time, and Commissioner Gasky, keep me honest, but I think you guys had gone out to at least some neighborhoods were interested in having speakers and that type of thing. So again, kind of a small but mighty group. Before I kind of launch into some of the products, I just want to kind of plant this little seed if I can. Last time something that worked really well, was really efficient for us and for, I thought, the previous group, is they had like a point person that they ran their communications through. And if it may have been a small committee, if I remember right, but there was like 1 or 2 people. So if you make a decision at a meeting, you're like, oh, you know what, the next meeting, we really could use a news release or some extra social media or whatever, rather than me getting like 5 different emails from folks, there was a point person who kind of handled that. And that person was different than the chair and, secretary and that type of thing. So just going to plant that seed. It was really efficient and worked well. So we kind of talked briefly about news releases a minute ago. Again, the news releases, I won't do one for every meeting. They're kind of like I did the initial meetings. We'll do, when you guys set your regular meetings, we'll get something out on that. And also when you have, and in addition to having your chair information, leadership information, we'll put one out. If you're having some kind of a special meeting, you think, oh, we really need a little extra boost or something. Again, that's something, reach out to me and we'll talk about it and get something out. Our news releases go out via flash alert. You might be familiar with that if you subscribe to that. You can subscribe to the main county one. The sheriff has their own, it's separate from ours. But that is how we get it out. It goes to, when we use their system, it goes to a whole lot of local folks, including Portland Associated Press, Seattle Associated Press, every news organization you could think of in the Portland, Vancouver area, even up to like Longview, that type of thing. So it covers a lot of media. And then of course, people subscribe to it as well. So people who are subscribing to it will get those news releases as well. Oh, and then somebody brought up canceling a meeting and getting notice out. I'm not sure if that's illegal. Yeah, legal notice would go out or posting on it. But that is something that I would put out a news release on as well, and probably also put on the front page of our website. Particularly if it's something along the lines of we're having a weather event and power's out and we're having to cancel a lot of things, that would be in the group of cancellations. So. In addition to that, we do have social media, the accounts that you see up there, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, and Marilee handles our Nextdoor account. Those are what I call the main county accounts that are under the county manager's office. You probably know, if you follow any of our social media, some of our other larger departments have their own social media and they run those: public health, public works, again, sheriff's office, I think treasurer's office, jail services has some. Those are separate than the ones that we run. I did put some information out again on this meeting, and again, we'll put some more information out as we go along and you have information you want out there. You probably have already seen your website or webpage rather. It's on the charter information under the council office. And so if you haven't seen it, your names are out there, little blurb on what you're doing, and your links to your emails, your main email, the charter main email. And then there's a meeting section with all the information. Michelle loads that information onto the webpage. So that's already up there. If you're not already familiar with Clark Vancouver TV or CVTV, the county channel is 23 or 323. They work with us and the city of Vancouver to get our content out. They record Clark County Council meetings, public health meetings, that type of thing. But they also have a show called Clark County Close-Up. They record it once every 6 weeks, and then it runs for 6 weeks on their channel. And there's little segments in the show. One of them is a sit-down interview. It's in the middle. It's about 12 to 15 minutes. For the previous commission, we had like the chair, co-chair sit down, do interviews with them. And it's kind of a nice way to get, be out there, but also then we get those little segments in MP4 files that we can use on social media and or the website. So that's a kind of a longer one, but they also do shorter segments. Sometimes we did updates, just saying, hey, we got announcing like he has some things on the ballot. I wanted to get people out there aware of what's out there. So that's kind of a good tool to keep in mind. And then neighborhood meetings, which I spoke on earlier. Again, Marilee is kind of the conduit for that, and it can help you arrange those. And that's just kind of a brief overview. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay.
All right. Seeing no questions, we'll move on. Thank you, Johnny.
You bet.
So the next item on the agenda is going to be the review of draft bylaws.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
given that it is 6:40 and we're technically scheduled to end by 7, it's unlikely that the review of the bylaws will fit within the 20-minute segment. And I would suggest that we amend the agenda further by taking up next a determination of what our meeting schedule will be so that we have that settled before we end this meeting.
Second. John Jay.
Brandon
Erickson
brought the motion and John Jay seconded it. Seconded it. That's too many dids, but okay. Any discussion? Okay, having no discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I see nobody opposed. The motion carries. We will move the determination of dates and of regular meetings up to the next agenda item. John Jay.
I move that we make our meetings on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on a weekly basis.
Peter Silliman, I'll second.
Can I offer a friendly amendment to that? That the first week in April,
You gotta turn your,
the first week in April, that Wednesday is the first day of Passover, and that it would be, I think, in bad taste for the community to hold it on that particular Wednesday. That we could meet on Thursday or committees could meet.
I am aligned with that friendly amendment. I think it's completely reasonable to avoid various holidays of importance.
so can you restate how you would like your motion to read?
Is there any other days on Wednesday?
That'd be Wednesday, 5 to 7, excluding the first week of April. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll amend my motion in alignment with Shannon's recommendation, being that we should meet on every Wednesday except for the first weekend of April, or week of April, in alignment with observing Passover.
Is there a second?
I just want to state there, as opposed to being prescriptive about a specific date, would it not be more helpful to say something in regard to given public holidays, bank holidays, things of that nature? Because if we were to extend into the second year of this commission, right, that date wouldn't necessarily be the same holiday.
I'm just looking at this year. I could look as to next year. I didn't look at next year when July 4th falls, or any of those
Christmas.
I think as a group, it would be prudent that we could also vote as things got closer to conflict, whether the 4th of July or whatever, to skip a meeting. Say we were going to skip the meeting 3 weeks from now because it's on the 4th of July. And I'm only making that up. I don't know if that's the case. But as what I hear John proposing is, as a rule of thumb, we would meet Wednesdays from 5 to 7 unless there's something that's identified and brought to the group to exclude that meeting.
Will the meeting stay 2 hours in perpetuity, or?
I think we should probably schedule for 2 hours, and then we can always go home early.
The motion still
Chairman,
reads.
question. Would that mean that our next meeting would be next Wednesday as opposed to January 22nd?
No, we'll be January 22nd because it's already been published.
Thank you.
And we'll be moving on after that.
John's motion requires a second.
I seconded it.
Does his new motion, amended motion, need a new second, or is that
I
stand?
think it was a friendly amendment.
I'm going to second.
The amended motion does require a second,
Okay.
and usually that's just
That's
confirmation.
fine.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I was going to ask, it sounds like we're talking about meeting weekly. I'm not sure if I caught any further discussion or if there is further interest in discussion around that particular cadence of meetings, or if we want to meet bi-weekly, second and fourth Wednesday, that kind of thing. If we're approaching it from a kind of a consensus standpoint, any thoughts?
Mr. Erickson?
It's my understanding that the last Charter Review Commission started out meeting every other week and then realized that that wasn't frequent enough to get their work done. So I think the plan to meet weekly works. And then this speaks actually to my earlier question about the protocols for canceling a meeting. We have the option to cancel a meeting if we decide one isn't needed. But as a standard rule, that we would expect to meet weekly until we decide otherwise.
We also have the option of changing our scheduled meetings further down the road. Then we decide that we're meeting too often. Somebody could make a motion and we could change that schedule to every other. I do want to keep it capped at 2 hours because I know staff doesn't want to be here till 9:30 and 10 o'clock at night. So, all right. So Michelle, just to catch me up, we have a motion, we have seconds. Any further discussion?
And to clarify, it's been amended to exclude the first week of April currently, and we can address other exclusions going forward.
That is correct. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Nice. My first motion.
All right. I don't see that we have time in the next 10 minutes to go over the bylaws, but what I do have is you have all been provided a copy of the Clark County Review draft, the bylaws that were drafted by, I'm not sure who drafted them, Michelle. They just showed up in my inbox like black magic and voodoo.
Duncan, I can tell you, we took last year's bylaws and then Chris Cook and myself just reviewed them and made some tweaks to it. So for the most part, they should be very similar to last time.
Okay. And I have the last ones here that were provided by another member. It's okay just to pass these out to everyone, and we have enough copies, I'm told.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose a motion just to clarify what version we're going to be working from, that we work from the last charter review's final bylaws and work from there. And so that would be my motion.
I second that motion.
Kathy Gardner. Got it.
And I think,
any discussion?
I think there's a copy of the proposed draft in each of our packets.
Yes. What I'm handing out is the actual laws from
the
last
round
commission.
Okay.
So you have something for reference?
I would like to add as part of the discussion that I would be extremely interested to see a track changes version of what you guys did because I'm sure it's very valuable, but the version you sent didn't show us. So I would very much appreciate that.
We can forward that to you all. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
So when I reviewed the bylaws, there were two critical issues that I thought we could address in short circuit. One was whether we were going to have two co-chairs or chair and co-chair and decide on that issue. And the second issue is whether or not we want non-charter members on these committees. That was something that stood out to me.
Okay, Mr. Erickson.
I had my hand up earlier, so I'll speak to the first comment. I would like to echo Anne's, Commissioner Donnelly's comment. If we could get the track changes version of the bylaws that were sent out, and I personally would like to also understand the rationale or the reasoning for those changes, that would be helpful. And then I do agree that those are very important topics. I don't know that we're going to hash them out now, perhaps, but I agree and I have opinions on those two topics as well. And that would be very much germane to our discussion about the bylaws.
I'm wondering if it might be more efficient for us to come back after review with what we feel should be. For example, if I felt there should be a co-chairs again, then I would already know that because I've gone through and looked at what the bylaws are, and then I'd be ready to vote on that. We could have further discussion here, but we're running up against the clock.
Chair, just before we get to that running up against the clock, can we get a response from staff if that's actually possible to get that? I think it's on a timeline that suits our next meeting when we're discussing these bylaws.
I can have it to you by this weekend.
Yeah, I thought I
heard that because I'm going out of town tomorrow, but, and so so I would say by Saturday, I can send you a track change version.
Thank you.
So I'd like to discuss, the motion on the floor is to start with the previous Charter Review Commission's bylaws and not the draft that they came up with.
Correct.
So Ann has made a motion.
I'll second. Liz Klein.
It's been seconded.
Oh, has it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify what the motion was exactly.
Any further discussion?
So does that mean you're going to still send us the track changes of what you proposed, even if we go back to what Ann Donnelly has suggested?
That's what was requested.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to be clear on the process, the next time we come to the meeting, normally when I've seen bylaws done, they go section by section saying, section 1, anybody have any proposed amendments? That's dealt with. Then you go to section 2, anybody proposes amendments. When you finish going through every single section, all the amendments have been proposed, you approve it as a group. So are we all in the same understanding that that will be the process we go through next meeting? Is that how you envision it going forward?
Well,
You do it by section?
Please your microphone so those online.
Or approved by section.
Yeah, you either approve or amend each section, but I'm just saying to keep it transparent, you don't jump around or try to do big blocks. That way everybody's on the same page. So
I was just wondering to facilitate Duncan, if we could just decide first if we were going to have chair and co-chair and just at least elect a chair so that we could start the different process.
Well, I think we have to finish with the first motion.
There's a
We
motion
haven't
on the
voted
floor.
on the motion that's on the floor.
Chair, if I may, I do think that Commissioner Landisworth's comments germane to that motion because we're talking about ideally what version of the bylaws we're going to work from. I also want to just make certain that as a body, we're prepared to A, work from that version of the bylaws if this motion passes, and B, that receiving the track changes by this weekend gives us enough information to really understand if we want to work from that version of the bylaws or the current version as drafted, right? So without seeing that, I don't know that we have enough information to really decide on this motion. At least I personally don't feel like that's something that we can do only having half of the picture, right?
Well, I guess I'm kind of confused because I saw this as we would come back on Wednesday. And as a group, as Peter said, we would read through, okay, section 1, is that acceptable to everyone? And if it wasn't, then somebody would make an amendment for that language, and then we would vote on that. Is that not what I'm seeing?
Right, but we're also saying that we're going to work from a different version of the bylaws that are in this draft. And so if the motion is to vote on which version of the bylaws we're using, seeing those track changes before voting on that motion makes the most sense. So we can make an informed decision here, right? Otherwise, we're making a decision without all of the information, which is not a great starting point.
Mr. Erickson.
I believe the motion that's been made and seconded makes sense, and that we can still take under advisement the track change versions of the bylaws that have been presented for our consideration as to whether or not we want to propose amendments to the bylaws that the last commission used.
Just to clarify, if we go section by section next week, if we say we're starting with one version, you can simply propose and say, look, we like the county's draft version language, propose that as an amendment, and that would be the section. It should be a pretty smooth process to go through. It doesn't matter which one we start with, in my mind, just as long as we agree on which one we start with.
Patrick?
That comment just confuses me, because if it doesn't matter which version we start with, why are we looking at this?
Well, you're starting with one or the other, but each section you get to propose. You could, if we start with this one, you can propose an amendment and say, let's use this language out of this one. It's that simple on each section. So.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I tend to agree that I think it seems strange to adopt or to say we're going to work from the old bylaws and then also ask for the track changes and maybe work from that simultaneously. It seems like we should wait on this motion until we see what those track changes are and then decide which version we're going to work from.
Mr. Chair.
If you'd like to make a motion to postpone, I'll second it.
Mr. J.
Mr. Chair, in terms of which version we're thinking about starting from next go around, we can probably agree on that administratively. I'm not sure that necessarily needs a motion, and we can just, because we're not tethered actually to either one. So I think we can probably pick one administratively, use that as our starting point for discussion
Motion on the floor.
when we reconvene. We're going to have I think at that point, at our next meeting, someone's going to have to make a motion that says, hey, let's start with the 2021 version or the 2026 proposed version. And then we can go from there.
But that's the motion on the floor now.
I don't know that we necessarily need a motion for that.
Well, there's one been made and seconded, and so I'm kind of at a loss at where we're moving next. Mr. J, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to make a point that the reason why we want to potentially leverage the original one as well as still have the alternative one that the county put together for 2026 is because we want to be able to work from a document that's already been proven, but also we don't want to throw away the work that the county has done previously, and potentially there's things in there that we want to incorporate. But as a starting point, given that we are the body that writes our own rules, we should start with something that we wrote ourselves as opposed to, or at least the previous body worked with themselves, as opposed to handing it entirely off to the county. And given that we don't have the track changes yet, we don't know entirely what the changes were unless we compare them side by side. And so we can still, as Commissioner Silliman has proposed, is that we can still take the language from the old one and just simply copy and paste it in the new one, should we so choose. But given we don't know entirely what the changes are in this new document yet, until then, we should make a decision based on what information we do have, and we do know the 2020 document.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. We'll vote on the motion on the floor about working off of the 2020 bylaws. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Morgan?
Yeah. Morgan Holmgren, nay.
Commissioner Negome.
Okay, the motion passes. Finally, we're up against 7 o'clock, and if nobody is going to object, I would.
May I just say something for the good of the order? To expedite this process, since we have a week to review it, if you can put your proposed amendments in writing, that always expedites the process, and you have a week to think them through. It really delays the process when you have people trying to come up with things on the floor. So just thinking in terms of efficiency for everybody, I just wanted to point that out.
Valid.
I'd like to make the recommendation that people send their proposed through our communication channels.
To Michelle.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody object to?
Well, is it going to be reply all, or are we just going to, I mean,
No.
it's on section 2.
Only if you want to see Chris have a stroke.
Well, when we're doing the bylaws and we're all talking about it, or is it just going to go to one central place and then you're going to say, here are 6 proposals for section 1, and here are 6 proposals for section 2?
I don't know if Michelle's going to have the bandwidth for 15 of us sending 6 different proposals, so we may just have to bring it up.
I'm just saying this because it'll make it a lot easier for her to have them already typed out.
We can all agree on that. If you have an electronic copy of language you propose, at least send it to Michelle so she can update easier.
Put a big folder up.
Awesome.
Okay.
By law, we cannot send them to the rest of the commission.
Correct. That would cause a stroke from our attorney. Okay. Anybody object to adjourning? All right, we'll call the meeting. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's work. This is